right now I'm just getting ready to watch, let's see, was this Game 6 of the NBA playoffs. We'll see if Cleveland can make a comeback and force Game 7. But what prompted this video today is somebody today asked me my opinion on different types of diets and whatnot. He mentioned intermittent fasting, he mentioned carb cycling to me, and I guess one of the things that really came to mind and not a lot of people emphasize is slow progression in general. And this goes for both nutrition and exercising in general. But essentially, like intermittent fasting, for example, is just an adherence tool. It's essentially the same as just counting your macros or counting your calories in general, just calories in versus calorie out. But the only difference is that with intermittent fasting, it's just in a specific window of time. But I guess really what kind of drove this was he already had all that information, like what his maintenance calories are, excuse me, the macros he needed and whatnot. So I guess the original intent was to be like, okay, I want to lose this weight as fast as I can. So naturally, you're going to cut out a big chunk of calories below your maintenance. So therefore, you're probably going to lose a lot of weight really fast. A lot of that's going to be glycogen and water, but some of it's going to be fat too. But eventually, it's going to plateau. And I guess the main point of this is I caution against taking big chunks of your macros and your calories away too quickly. And this goes for lifting as well, but I'll get into that. You find your maintenance calories, and I would say maybe 250 to 500 calorie deficit per week. That way you can ensure it's going to be fairly slow, so like half a pound to a pound of body fat loss per week. And this is like without taking into account anything else, like any cardio, any exercise, or anything like that. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is if you cut everything too fast, you'll experience some metabolic damage, which could in turn end up slowing down your metabolism in general. And while you might yield great results, like you might lose, like if you cut a big chunk out, you might lose like 15 pounds in a week or two, but then it'll stop. And as soon as you go back to eating the way you were, or starting to add calories back in because you hit your goal weight, you're gonna blow up like a balloon because your body can't respond to the amount of nutrients it's taking in. It's basically going into survival mode. Before I forget, I can speak also on personal experience for metabolic damage, as I was mentioning earlier. So about 2 years ago, I weighed probably around 175, 177 pounds, and I decided to do a ketogenic diet. So I was not as well versed in this stuff as I am now. So right off the bat, I jumped right into it. I was having at most probably 25, maybe 25 grams of carbs a day, filling the rest in with fat and protein. And then I was probably on a 750 to 1,000 calorie deficit. And I only ran it for about 2.5 weeks. I lost 15 pounds in those 2 weeks. My numbers dipped a lot, especially in the bench press. But the worst part really was because I knew that would go back up fairly quickly as long as I replenished my calories a little bit. I guess the worst part though for me was I could tell there was a lot of metabolic damage done. Pretty much as soon as you go back to eating normal, I just blew up like a balloon. Like as you guys have seen probably over the past year, I compete at 181, and I can still get down to there, but it's way more of an effort now than it should be. Like when I'm not paying attention to what I'm eating or anything like that, I consistently weigh between 210 and 215. So naturally, it's a bit of a struggle to get down. So bottom line, with any sort of caloric restriction, any sort of carb restriction, anything like that, I recommend that you reverse diet out of whatever you're doing. That way you can ensure that your body will slowly adjust back to that increase in calories and isn't in survival mode and holding on to every piece of fat that it possibly can. So what I recommend you do is you get your caloric deficit, and you essentially stay with, let's say, that 500 calorie deficit until you stop losing weight with that 500 calorie deficit. Then maybe after that, maybe decrease it a little bit more to what it was, but only do so once you stop losing weight. I guess you want to be able to take it as slow as you possibly can, because that'll yield the greatest results with probably the least amount of muscle lost. And I guess leading back into lifting, this is also important because this is a mistake I've made before. I recommend when you attempt to PR a certain lift, like let's say my bench, for example. 2 years ago now, maybe a year and a half ago, I benched 410 in the gym. That was at the very end of a peak, so my body was primed to lift that really heavy weight. But what I didn't take into account was that's only, your body isn't necessarily capable of lifting that every single time, and on top of that, that was like a 30-pound PR. So with those big jumps, what I noticed afterwards was I had a lot of joint problems. I had a lot of tendonitis issues with my elbow. So I guess one of the issues with that too is just try to, like, what's your rush really with getting a bigger lift? Like, honestly, it's gonna keep building off itself. Just because you're capable of hitting a maybe like a 45-pound, maybe a 50-pound PR even, doesn't mean it's necessarily gonna be best for your lifting career. So I'm gonna, like, I know I don't always adhere to this myself, but I'm have to start doing it. So right now, I think I'm really well off to finally be able to bench in the 400s again for a pause. But I might be able to hit like a 415, 420 if I was peaked. But I think from now on I'm going to be sticking to the 15, at most maybe 20-pound PR attempts. And just in my opinion, if it's going to be 20 or 30 pounds up, your body might just be playing catch up pretty much from there on out. So you might not be as physically prepared to even train at the percentages of those new numbers as you might think you are. So for instance, let's say in 2 weeks from now, when I'm doing my max attempts, I squat 585 or 590. I might not be able to hit those lighter percentages for higher volume just because I was peaked for that, and in the long term I just might not be able to catch up. So instead what I might do is, because I can squat 560 now, maybe I'll attempt 575, and if I leave a little bit in the tank, then I know I'm definitely going to be able to hit those rep ranges that I know is going to be able to build my volume back up, so I feel better prepared for the PR in the future. So not only are your personal best going to be a little bit more consistent, but you also have the potential not to be as injured. So honestly, in a sport like powerlifting, where you're going to be doing it from, like, let's say, like maybe you're late to mid-teens all the way up until, like, honestly, you can do this for pretty much as long as you want into the masters divisions. So like, what's the rush to do like a 50-pound PR? It's all going to add up eventually. So really the name of the game is longevity. And as long as you can feel like you can maintain a certain level of quality into each of your workouts, I'd say just stick with that. Bottom line of this whole entire video, I know it was a bit cryptic in its message, but just stress longevity and slow and steady progression. That's going to be important in pretty much all aspects of nutrition and training. But until next time, guys, thank you for watching.